Hey everyone, welcome to How's the Market, March 20th, 2023. Jennifer Zeller, the registered realtor with Realty Executive, Southeastern Wisconsin. All right, so let's get started. We got a lot to talk about today. We like to start with what did Michelle and I see when we were out, showing our clients, doing listings, things like that. So this week, we saw that it's been still kind of quiet, at the Milwaukee area. As far as listings coming on board, we only did one showing, and that was a condo in downtown Milwaukee this week. The other houses that we're looking are kind of in that 3 to 7 range in Ozaukee County, and there really isn't that much coming on the market. As a matter of fact, let's talk about some details, what's coming on the market for Ozaukee County. So last week there was new listings of about, let's see here. So overall Milwaukee area, new listings, there was 106 in between 300 and 700. So I was kind of looking at the range where the majority of my clients are. Actually there was 83 last week in Milwaukee area, it's Ozaukee, Milwaukee County, Washington County, Waukesha County. Last year there was 106, so about a 20% decrease. And of those new listings, and then let's talk about what closed last week, just to give you an idea in Milwaukee County, in Milwaukee area, I should say. Last week there was 59 closings. Of those 59, 12 of them were above 500,000, and then of those 12, only 2 went below asking. And so a lot of them went over, a couple right at asking, but 2 of the 12 only above 500,000 went for asking. And then in between the 3 and 500 range, there was 47, and of those 47, about 14 went below asking, which I guess that makes sense to me, because when you kind of get down to like the 3s and 4s, sometimes those are homes that are a little bit older that have been well taken care of but haven't been updated. And so that's when you might not get your asking price a little bit less. So about a third of them that closed last week in the Fort County area, 1/3 went below asking. What that's telling me is that you really need an agent to be knowledgeable and walk your buying process with you, or your selling process. What the things you can do to get your home so you don't have regrets when you sell it. Curb appeal, great pictures, great video, simplifying your house, decluttering, doing all those things. As far as the agent needs to help you do that to get asking or above. And then as a buyer, you need to know what the market is in each, and not even, this is kind of a general view of what happened in the Fort County area, but if I want deep diving on each city in the area, it's going to be even more specific. So when you're ready to write an offer, make sure you know what's going on in Brookfield. What are the houses that are not quite perfect, not glossy, but are really nice? What are they going above, asking, below? And so you really need to be on top of your data, because it's really shifting. The one thing that I would say, so the things that closed last week, they probably wrote an offer in the beginning of February, and I believe even in the last 6 weeks, things have kind of shifted more toward going above or asking. Why has it shifted? Because the rates have dropped just a little bit. So let's dive into the data that we have. One second, I'm going to pull this up. Dive into the data that we have this week. Nationally, let's look at this here. Okay, so new listings nationally. As you can see, new listings have dropped a little. That's in tune with what we're seeing in southeastern Wisconsin. It's kind of the historical data, and if you look at this sheet, or this document, it shows for the last 3 years what listings are doing. And you can see there's a real consistent arc between 2021 and 2022, with listings peaking in July, ramping up from January to July, and then ramping back down. But what we saw here for this year in 2023, it's instead of the continuing ramping up, we had a little bit of drop last week, which again is consistent. Now the other thing I wanted to show you, 1 second here. Actually, I'll show you that in a minute. Sneak peek. The one thing that came out this week though was that, I believe this was by NAR, that inventory increased. Okay, so listings dropped, but inventory increased. So that kind of gets to the point of my favorite term, glossy houses. They're going, but some of the other houses were sitting a little bit. So we're starting to see increases, and this is where buyers, you want to think about, what buying a home that isn't maybe perfect, maybe getting a rental loan, maybe get some seller's credit so you can do some update, because there's more inventory, less listings, so that means those homes that aren't quite beautiful are staying a little bit longer. All right, another report that came out is the change in home equity in fourth quarter between 2021 and 2022. So let's take a look at it. As you can see in this, kind of the South and through the Midwest, home value and equity has increased year to year. And then as you kind of head over to the East or the West Coast, either it stayed the same, they lost a little. In Idaho, they lost a decent amount of equity in the last year. Now, let's talk about Wisconsin, because that's what we care about, right? As you can see in Wisconsin, our home equity increased between 10 and 20,000 last year. And so that's for the full year, and that is, let's see here. That is for, wrong one. That is for the fourth quarter. So in the fourth quarter, when it was slowing down, rates were higher, home equity was still going up, which really ties into everything we're seeing in Milwaukee. Buyers have maybe decreased from last year, maybe they have, but then inventory has decreased, but inventory has decreased at a greater rate than buyers. So your home price is still maintaining, it's increasing actually in Wisconsin, which gets into like what we've been talking a lot about as far as buyers. Like you're waiting for home price, you're gonna wait. I hear a buyer say, I'm gonna wait. What are you waiting for? Rates to drop? If rates drop, that means it's gonna be even more competitive trying to get your house. Are you gonna wait for home prices to drop? Well, in the last quarter of last year, when it was pretty slow in Wisconsin, home value still increased. And so if you're not getting into this market, you're losing your opportunity to start building equity. I was talking to my mom this weekend, and she was saying the first home that they had that was in the crazy times of like 18%. And she said, we didn't even know what we were doing. Like the house needed repairs, whatever. The rate was high. And she looks back and she just said, thank goodness that we put an offer in. So if you think about it, if you put an offer in at 18, home needed work, and still thank goodness. And I said, why? She said, well, because we started building our equity, which is really what we talk about with our buyers, especially our first time, like let's get you in the position to start building your wealth. Okay, so what else? 10-year. The 10-year is at 3.4. Again, in this market, we're kind of seeing that mortgage rates are about 3 points plus the 10-year. Historically, it's been 2, but right now it's 3, which really ties in 10 years, 3.4. And the last week, right now, rates are 6.5. Now, if you remember last week, we talked that rates were 7, and so it dropped a little bit. I'm happy to say I had a client lock in with 6.5 this week. They were so happy. I was so happy. So it was just a perfectly timed accepted offer. But I really do feel like we see difference between 7 and 6.5 in a buyer's mind. It's just like, okay, I'm back in. Like that 7 right now, I feel like is the number that is kind of scaring buyers off a little bit. Not that it should, based on like what we just said, start building your equity. But I feel like to them, they're like, all right, 6.5, let's do that. And so when I was talking with our lender, TJ Ebert, at Guidance last week, when we did our video on FHA loans, he said that they are kind of seeing a pickup of mortgages again. I think it kind of sways week to week, kind of based on where the rate's at a little bit. What else did we see? Rates are down a little bit, typical homeowner gain. All right, so what can you expect this week? It's going to be a crazy week. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday. I'll probably do a bonus live because that's when the Fed is coming out with its statement. Again, like for the last couple weeks up until SVP bank collapse, we were thinking that the Fed was going to come in at a 0.5 increase. Now with the bank collapse, we're thinking that might be 2.5. I heard some people even speculating there might not be a rate increase. Again, just to recap what we talked about earlier, like why did the bank collapse cause rates maybe not to increase? Because I think the Fed realizes it might need to pull back because it put some banks in jeopardy as they were just continuing to increase the rate. I feel like sometimes the Fed is like a mad scientist, like just keep turning all the buttons, and maybe this will just give them a second to pause and let the rates just, because they really want to get to that 2% inflation. We're at 6%. So they're just going so hard on the interest rates for real estate Again, because we've talked about that's really their main button that they can be playing with is real estate because employment is good. And so, I think the combination of things with the bank collapse, we want to maybe settle a minute. So it'll be interesting to see. If I had to guess, I'll say it's going to go increase 2.5. I'd like to see 0. I'll be hopeful for 0, but in reality, I think it'll be 2.5. On Tuesday, NAR's coming out, National Association of Realtors is coming out with existing home sales, and then on Thursday, new homes sales will be coming out. So it's an exciting week. To recap what's going on in Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Washington, and Waukesha County, a little bit about 20% less listings week to week, coming live last week. Houses that closed, I would say between a third below 500 and maybe 20% above are coming in below asking. The majority are asking or above. And we'll see what happens this week. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Please subscribe to our channel. I'm Jennifer Zeller, the Registered Realtor. We will see you probably on Wednesday. Thank you.